Hi, scholars. Whenever I tell people that I teach communication, including public speaking, the number one question I get asked is how do you overcome that fear, that anxiety? That's our topic today. In this video, I want to talk to you about something called communication apprehension. This is the fear or anxiety we feel about communicating with others. Public speaking is certainly one option, or one example, but oftentimes people feel anxiety if they're going in for a big job interview, or if they're talking to somebody in authority, like a police officer or a judge, um, or asking somebody out on a date for the first time. There are a lot of different circumstances that we feel this anxiety. And one thing that we know is anytime we feel anxiety about something, it tends to reduce our ability to do it well. So somebody who, when they're not feeling stressed, can talk normally, have no problem finding the words, then they get into a speech or asking somebody on a date for the first time, or they're in a job interview, and oftentimes they're stumbling over words and have a lot of difficulty. So if we can help manage this communication apprehension, then we can enhance our ability to communicate with others in a variety of contexts. Now, most of you have probably seen websites or books about here's how to speak with more confidence, how to overcome your fear of public speaking, or whatever. And you look at the advice, and if you follow the advice, oftentimes it doesn't work. The reason for that is because we have two distinctly different conditions, and we call both of them stress. There's physical stress and psychological stress. There's a saying, never solve a psychological problem by non-psychological means. And so if you feel psychological stress, but the advice given is to deal with physical stress, it's probably not going to help you manage your anxiety at all. Likewise, the inverse is also true. Don't try to solve non-psychological problems with psychological means. So if what you're feeling is physical stress, and the solution that you're pursuing or the advice you're following is to deal with psychological stress, it's probably not going to work very well. I mean, if somebody has the flu, you going up and saying, don't worry about it, you'll feel fine, probably isn't going to help them. So we're going to separate these two apart and talk about psychological stress and physical stress separately. And because I like to keep these videos no longer than 15 minutes, although sometimes they go closer to 20, we're probably going to be making a few different videos on this to kind of break it up so that way you can look up something specific as needed. So the first thing we're going to want to try to do is we want to be able to identify, do you have physical stress or psychological stress? The best way I think to do this is to follow the example of doctors. What doctors use is something called a differential diagnosis. What a differential diagnosis means is you look at the symptoms and try to determine what is the cause. So if you go into a doctor and you say, I don't feel very good, the doctor says, explain that. So what are you feeling? And as they're listening to the symptoms, they're trying to determine what is the cause. If they determine that you have a viral infection, they're not going to give you an antibiotic unless they're quacks, because what you need is an antiviral or something to deal with the virus. If you have a bacterial infection, they're going to give you an antibiotic. If it's because of dehydration, they're going to give you water and hydration. You get the idea. That in essence, we use the symptoms to determine the cause and then simply reverse the cause. And that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and break this up into probably 3 videos. This is the overview. The first one we're going to be talking about is psychological stress. So we'll look at the symptoms that would indicate that it's psychological stress. What are the causes, and then how do we reverse that? And then a third video, we'll look at physical stress. What are the symptoms that would indicate that it's physical stress? What is the cause of physical stress, and how do we reverse that? So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.